Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show. Hello, Adi Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And today's guest is Alykhan Jetha, also best known as AJ. So hi, AJ.
Nice to be here.
Yes, nice to have you. And big shout out to my dear friend Marina from A Brand of a Leader. And she is absolutely amazing. And she connected us. She has, I did 2 episodes with her, and I'm going to include it in the show notes.
Okay.
So our listeners can listen to that episode, those 2 episodes, and learn all about Marina and how she helped business owners to really find their voice and have their own brand. And you are working with her, and she's absolutely phenomenal. So thank you, Marina, for the introduction. Okay, AJ, so we're going to have a great conversation here about productivity. You have an app to help business owners, entrepreneurs, fast-growing companies, basically our listeners, with a special CRM that also tracks productivity and helps with productivity.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk about those areas of how to become more productive, how to have resilience as an entrepreneur. Perhaps we'll touch a little bit about AI. But tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, how did you get started and how did you get to where you are at today?
So I was born in the Congo, and I came to Canada as a refugee. One thing led to another, and I ended up starting this business, Marketcircle, a long time ago in the late 90s. It was not the business you see today. In fact, I had to pivot like 4 significant times, and now you could maybe call it even another pivot with all this AI stuff happening. So the business was not what it is today. It was a .com online, that type of stuff. And today we're selling a SaaS product that caters to businesses 1 to 100 in size, growing. Typically, our customers start small and then they end up growing over time. And so that's what we're doing.
Nice. Okay. So tell us a little bit more about your product so we have a context. So what is that software that you are selling?
So the motivation behind Daylite, so the product name is Daylite, Daylite .app if you want to get there, is to help small businesses grow. And as generic as that sound, that's what kind of motivates me in terms of what kinds of features we have in the product. So when we built the product, there was this whole craze about CRM back in the day, right? And the problem was that these CRM systems were built for management, not for people using things day to day. And so we went from the other angle. Instead of building sales and then trying to backfill things like tasks and appointments and whatnot, we went from the other way around. We started with a productivity base. So we have a proper calendar, proper task management, all that kind of stuff. And then we layered on opportunities and projects with the CRM piece on top. And so now what happens is that you're using the system every day, your meetings, setting up all that stuff is like your, you know, native Mac app or iPhone or iPad, and it just looks like you're using the calendar app or any native app, and then that fills all the CRM data automatically in some cases. I mean, there's a few buttons you got to click here and there, but it kind of builds up that historical data, and that and along encodes some processes, because I know you talk about processes. So we have pipelines and we have what we call activity sets, et cetera, to help people with processes. and it all happens automatically. That's the thing that we're trying to do. And with the aim of helping these small businesses in the services space mostly grow their business from an individual all the way to some customers we, are over 100 users now.
Great. So let's talk about the problems, okay, that you faced or that
Hmm.
you observed, because obviously an app, a technology is a solution to a problem, just like what
Yeah.
we do is a solution to a problem. So our
Yeah.
solution is lack of consistency, knowledge walking out the door, better onboarding, better training, and businesses need those playbooks, and that's what we do for them. In your case, what problem did you observe?
So the main problem, and the problem that actually drove me to write the application at that time, I was selling consulting services. We were doing custom app development. And what was happening is I was losing track of opportunities, sales opportunities. I was losing track of where I left off with customers. So not only the fact that I had to follow up, but when I did follow up, what did I have to follow up about? And in some cases, I had to do some homework before I could follow up. And I would lose track of these things because the the time between touch points with these customers was not every day, or it was like weeks apart, right? And while you're doing that, you're running the business, you're trying to grow the business, you're doing 500 things because as an entrepreneur starting out, there is no respite. There is, it's just go, 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 right? Back in those days, and even more so now. And so I ended up needing a tool for myself to keep track of these things and knowing when to follow up and so forth, and what to follow up about, et cetera, and keeping track of who was what in the deal, like, who's our champion, who's against us, who's the decision maker, et cetera. So that's what drove us to make the application.
That is definitely a problem that exists, and having an application like that will be I mean, I can see how it is a solution.
Yeah.
What what do you find is the cause of entrepreneurs not able to do that, not following up or not keeping track, or like what do you see around
Hmm.
you or even in
Hmm.
yourself? What happened at that point?
So, it's a really good question. We have thousands of customers, and I try and talk with a bunch of customers as much as possible. I can't obviously talk to all of them, but I try and schedule time with a bunch of business owners that, are our customers. And the common theme is really like, when you're an entrepreneur navigating a situation, there's a couple of things. One, you don't know what you don't know, right? Two, uh, the world, the dynamics is constantly changing. So you may have an idea that, oh, this is how I'm gonna make my business, or this is how I'm gonna get to this point in my business. But then there's all these curveballs that are thrown at you all the time, and um, and when you can't absorb those curveballs, it derails you, and you fail basically, right? So you got to be able to absorb these curveballs, being able, and this is why I believe a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners, they get distracted from the administrative things, like, oh, I got to follow up on tomorrow about this topic. It's like not in your mind until like maybe 5 minutes before the call, unless it's a huge deal, of course, right? The rest of the time, you're trying to figure out how to make sure that you have enough payroll to cover, you have enough money to cover payroll at the end of the month, right? So these kinds of all these inputs and all these things you have to worry about kind of contribute to you forgetting when to follow up and what to follow up about and
Yeah, so what I'm
etc.
hearing is basically there is no system. I mean, that's like true for
Yes.
anything. That if you don't
Yeah.
have a system to follow up, you are not going to follow up. If you're not
Correct.
organized, you're not going to follow up
Correct.
either.
But you'll
So
be
what
surprised. You'll be surprised how many entrepreneurs are in that situation. They know they want to build a business. They have dreams and aspirations, but they don't know about systems. Sometimes they don't disciplined enough to implement systems, or if they do implement systems, they're not disciplined enough to follow their own systems, right? So
right.
all
So
those things kind of contribute there.
they do. They absolutely do. So AJ, I understand definitely the technology can help. 100%. But
Hmm.
you used a good word, which is discipline. They're not disciplined enough. Do
Hmm.
you believe that that the system can solve that, or do you still have to have the right frame of mind to be disciplined in order to
You
follow the system?
you have to be disciplined. No system, like for example, I can design for you the best system in the world, but if you don't follow the system or you don't input the right data in the system, however which way you're doing it, um, it won't work, right?
That's true.
So what I when I talk to certain entrepreneurs, I talk to them sometimes about things like the morning habit, right? The morning habit, which includes journaling, right? To kind of get into the right frame, to kind of quieten down your mind a little bit because it's
So,
we're
what's your morning habit? So, I mean, I had several guests on the podcast that shared their morning habit and how it helps them, how it grounds them.
right.
And again, it's a system. So, that's good because then you know it's the morning, this is what you do, and you set yourself up for the
Correct.
day.
Yeah.
What
So
is
first
your
is your
morning
own mental
routine?
system, your own brain system, right? Then we can talk about technology. Um, so what I do is okay, so I fall in and out. So I don't want to make it seem like, I'm perfect and that you have to be perfect. But I fall in and out of my system. Like when I get what I call discombobulated, I remember, oh shoot, I'm not following my own system. Let me get back to it. So my system is I wake up early-ish. I'm not an early morning kind of person. I'm 7 a.m. kind of wake up kind of thing. I shower, shave, all that kind of stuff, and then I journal and I try and read a little bit. Um, and I, plan my day. But the journaling part is actually the most important part to me, um, because it helps me kind of settle my mind a little bit. Now, sometimes I find that I have to do that later in the day uh, instead of just the morning, because otherwise, sometimes in the morning, actually, I am pretty calm. In which case, I'm clear about what has to happen and it flows. But other times, I'm a mess because I didn't, it's just so many things going on. And then sometimes during the end of the day, I'm also a mess. So when I write things down, I have to write it. This is what I've learned about myself. Typing it, eh, it helps a little bit. It's better than zero. But writing it for some odd reason uh, is very uh, distills things for me, right?
It
So
does.
yeah.
But that leads me to the next topic. Like, for me now dictating to AI and have it all summarize it and give it to me, for me, it's a time saver. And I know it's not writing,
Mm-hmm.
but that helps me with my discipline. Because what I find is that if I find hacks or tricks or ways
Mm-hmm.
of doing
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
something faster, then
Yeah,
I'm more inclined to actually keep it because I only have a compressed amount of time to do that. So if I
exactly.
actually use tools, then it can help me. So that what do you think about all the tools, the AI? I mean, how do you utilize that in order to help you?
So I think there's a double-edged sword here. And the double-edged sword is that with talking about AI, is that AI can generate so much content, so much spew that you can get overwhelmed with that content, right? So, we use AI every day, and as entrepreneurs, you're probably in there asking Claude or ChatGPT, what should I do in this case, or what legal thing is there, and it can produce 5, 6, 7,000 word, documents when you ask it for certain things. And of course, some of it is hallucination. So you gotta verify these things. But when there's too much content, you have to distill down somehow, and you have to have some. This is where the writing. This is why writing for me is important than anything else. It's because it forces me to slow my brain down, right? And it forces me to distill because I'm not going to write 5,000 words, right? And it forces me to distill. That's the key thing for me. I have used audio, like like what you've done. I've found it not as good for me as writing for myself, right?
Yeah, no, I get it. And
But I'm talking
but
my own mindset here, not
exactly. And
necessarily
that's what we
dictating.
all need to find our own mindsets
Yeah, yeah.
because It's either you want to speed up or you want to slow down, and that's wherever you're at. But what
Yeah.
you said that really resonated with me is the fact that you are still in control. So you use the tools, but then you find your own methodology, whatever it is, to
Yes, yes,
keep you in
absolutely.
control, where you are actually before the machine, you are before the technology. So
Yeah,
for
yeah,
you is to have it, and look, I have my own notebook as well,
yeah, yeah,
and I
yeah.
have
Here's
my
mine.
pen and paper. That's right. So it's not like I discard that, and I'm saying it's not. I would just wanted to know what is your routine,
Yeah,
but that point of, for each, like, what our listeners can take from this is, think about the way that you can maintain control over the artificial intelligence, right? The human
yes,
intelligence, the HI over AI.
yeah,
Still use AI to the max. I use it all
yes.
the time as well. But how do you be the driver? How do you stay the driver? That is the key component to actually have AI help you and not take
That's
over
right.
you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. One key, very, very important thing that people need to understand is AI is not actually intelligent, right? And
That's right.
so, but it is an amazing tool. It looks and appears intelligent, but it's not actually intelligent. So you have to guide it and drive it so that you get the benefits that you need from it in your situation.
That's right. And it's not really communicating to you either, because only humans can communicate. What it does, it spews out information that can be very
Yeah,
helpful, and it's great. And I'm totally I mean, use AI, but it's basically use it responsibly, because
yeah,
don't let your own drive, your own strategy, your own thought get in the way or
yeah.
being taken over.
It's a phenomenal tool for research. It's a phenomenal tool for, finding alternatives and so forth. And so that goes into your arsenal in terms of, your decision making, as opposed to sometimes, I'll give you an example. In our case, we need industry templates for the different industries, right? And in the past, it used to take so much time to do the research to get the right keywords, the right categories, the right, steps in the pipeline, etc. And now with AI, we can gather that information much,
Seconds.
much quicker. I don't know about, it takes 10 minutes or so, right? But and then we still have to verify it. So our time to produce that unit of work has shrunken, right? But you do have to guide it. You have to know, okay, I need these kinds of templates, I need these kinds of things, and help me do the research for it.
That's exactly right. I
Yeah,
agree. I
yeah.
agree. Well, AJ, if people want to find out more about your software, where should they go?
So our website is the best place, which is daylite.app, so daylite.app. And you can also find me on LinkedIn with my full name, Alykhan Jetha. I pretty much even I'm not great on social media, but I do get on LinkedIn and on our website.
Thank you very much. All
Thank
right.
you for
Well, it's
having me.
been great to have you on the podcast. Thank you for being a guest.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.